Excuse I need no introduction. Dame Edna Average, housewife superstar. And I'd like to introduce to you listeners my little nephew, Barry McKenzie. He's from Sydney, but he's a nice boy underneath.
G'day.
The lovable Australian ochre, Barry McKenzie, first appeared in a comic strip in the pages of the satirical magazine Private Eye.
Peter Cook was the owner and founder of Private Eye. Peter wanted a character, rather like a character I'd made a monologue about. I invented this character, and he was called Barry McKenzie, and he used expressions that were never used, hadn't been used in Australia for about 50 years. I just recycle lots of slang. I invented, really.
But you invented a lot of
a synthetic Australian.
Yes, which is now considered to be genuine.
But it really took off, you know.
The character first appeared in something other than print in the Private Eye seasonal flexi-disc records, this being a compilation thereof.
That was the Prime Minister's number 2 sound from Fabulous Radio Gnome, and now Barry Scott McKenzie. Zippity-doo.
I've got a little creature, I suppose you'd call him a pet. But if there's something wrong with him, I don't have to call a vet. He goes everywhere that I go, whether sleeping or awake. God help me if I ever lost me little one-eyed trouser snake. One day I got to...
On those discs, Barry McKenzie was played by his creator, Barry Humphries.
Only in the late 60s, when I met Bruce Beresford, then a young, aspiring Australian filmmaker who worked for the British Film Institute, was the suggestion raised that this could be made into a movie.
The lion's share of the script was written by Bruce Beresford, taking his favourite scenes directly from the comic and weaving the narrative around them, leaving Humphries to work on the vernacular. But he wouldn't be playing Mackenzie in the movie, as he'd written the character of Barry's Aunt Edna for Humphries. The title role would go to Barry Crocker.
You know, to me it was a magic time in my career. On the downside, for people like Bruce Beresford, who made these pictures, people believed that's all he could do. And for a little while this happened to me too. They said, well, he can only be Barry McKenzie. You know, people were amazed when I sang again, you know.
Barry Crocker is best known in present day as being the original singer of the Neighbours theme song.
Neighbours, everybody needs good neighbours.
The movie, The Adventures of Barry McKenzie, shares a lot of similarities with Crocodile Dundee. That is, if Mick Dundee was sexually unappealing and instead of going to metropolitan New York, he travelled to grey, rain-sodden London.
Aunt Edna and I have been having a bit of a chin wag, dear, and we thought it'd be a
I'm going to London
lovely...
with you, Barry.
Come again?
I'm going to London with you.
Because of the periodical nature of the source material, the film is episodic, following Barry McKenzie as he goes from place to place, failing to fit in with British life. Barry Humphries playing 2 other characters along this journey, a hippie called Hoot and the German-accented Dr. de Lamprey.
Cop that, you rotten pommy bastard.
The humour is brash and unapologetically so, which may seem unremarkable by today's standards, but in its day, this film broke new ground.
When we shot the movie, I mean, everyone agreed that you couldn't put a shot like that in a movie. There'd never been a shot in a movie of anyone, you know, throwing up. We'd heard noises and facsimiles of such, but we'd never actually seen anything coming out of anyone's mouth, let alone onto someone's head. So we were all horrified, and of course we said it can't go in the picture, and Barry insisted that it would. And they said, I remember saying to him that people will leave the theatre in droves because it's too revolting. You know, no one likes vomit. You know, but you know, when there we were all sitting there with white knuckles, and the scene was coming up, and I looked across at Beresford, he looked at me, and we said, "Oh God, here it is," and the Chunder scene happened, and the audience roared. They just absolutely roared for 3 minutes. It seemed like 3 minutes. The next 3 minutes of dialogue wasn't heard because people just couldn't believe what they'd seen. And in fact, we found out later that it was the first time that in film that anyone had ever thrown up.
British comedy royalty Spike Milligan shows up between depressive slumps as a landlord.
Bugger! That's only crap, just step over it.
Apparently his mood was so up and down that he would show up for the morning shoot and then go missing by lunch.
Excuse you two, but I feel like a spare tonk in a knock shop wedding.
Sorry, I haven't introduced you to Incurables. This is Barry McKenzie. This is Dominic. We once had something very big together.
The then owner of Private Eye magazine, Peter Cook, shows up as a sleazy television director and actually gives a rather strong performance.
I mean, he was a very nice man. He was very insecure.
He wanted to know other people's opinion. How does my hair look? Does this look too puffy? He'd ask the second electrician. He really wanted reassurance all the time.
I think he was already drinking a lot. And there were moments during the film where it is impossible not to recognise the fact that he's a bit drunk.
There are even 2 musical numbers, both of which will be familiar to listeners of those original Private Eye records.
I was down by Bondi Pier, drinking tubes of ice cold beer, with a bucket full of prawns upon me knee. When I swallowed the last prawn, I had a technically yawn, and I chucked it in the old Pacific Sea. Drink it up, crack another dozen tubes and prawns with me.
Barry Humphries has never been held back by political correctness. If anything, he revels in the offence.
Do you go to the same tailor all the time?
Well, I have a little bloke up there in Kowloon, which is a suburb of Hong Kong, and I get about half a dozen a time. And he sends me a Christmas card once a year.
It's nice, isn't it?
Very, very nice indeed. And gives you a drink while he's making the suit.
Are they impressed by your figure?
Well, of course, the first time I had this little bloke, a lovely little Oriental fella, he was down on his knees with his mouth full of pins, looked like a shark, and he ran the tape up my inside leg. Might like to do that later, Jackie. He said, what side do you dress? Bless, I think. What side do you dress? I said, no worries, just make it a bit baggy round the knees. That's what I said.
Les Patterson was known for being disgusting, but Dame Edna would be rude directly to someone's face and get away with it because the character was so warm and likeable.
I mean, look at me, am I overdressed? I think I am. I wanted to know, Judy and Sharon, what funeral have you just been?
Which makes it all the sadder when, in later life, comedians take what Humphrey said, mostly in character, and divorce it from how he said it.
At the time, it was spoken about a lot when Barry was cancelled back in 2018. It's been spoken about, obviously, since his death, a great deal. And I'm sorry, if you're going to make the sort of call that Hannah Gadsby made, where she tweeted some pretty awful things about Barry Humphries, where she was apparently, I'm led to believe, one of the main instigators in Barry being cancelled from the comedy festival that he himself, along with Peter Cook, actually originated and put all the effort and the time into creating, then you have to own that. You can't hide from that. You must own it, and you must either defend it and stand up and say, well, I was right to do the X, Y, and Z, or you have to recognise that you were wrong and say, really, times have changed, I misunderstood, I shouldn't have, found some way to say that perhaps they had overreacted.
The film critics of the time were equally uncharitable towards the Barry McKenzie film and Humphries himself.
If he could do this, if he could get away with it, it would make him Australia's answer to Peter Sellers. Sellers can't do it well. Humphries most certainly can't do it well. He's not Australia's answer to Peter Sellers. He's probably Melbourne's answer to a mating of Danny LaRue and Tiny Tim. But don't, for God's sake, ask me to pay to go and see it.
Sandra Hall of the Bulletin, a charming but somewhat laddered blue stocking, said that when she went to the film, there was a lot of yawning and sniggering. Well, perhaps I wasn't listening, but it's difficult to hear a yawn, and I'm a bit deaf, so I didn't hear the sniggers. All I heard were repeated bursts of rather happy, irresponsible laughter.
The film was a massive hit with the public, who had never seen this side of Australian life, a side which most of them were living, portrayed on screen.
Oh, that was tremendous. Really good. What do you think when shown overseas people will think? I think they'll take it in the manner that it was meant to be. Humour.
It was also a big hit in the UK and went on to become the first Australian film to make a significant profit in about 30 years. So how does it hold up? Well, it's dated, as any 50-year-old movie would be. But the mistake would be to be considered this a message to the future rather than a window to the past. The film lives or dies on how much you find Barry Humphries' brand of humour funny.
Hey, if you bastards form yourself into a chain gang and keep us well supplied with a chilled article, I reckon our old one-eyed trouser snakes can do the rest.
Great idea, Curl.
If you fill us up with Fosters, we'll put it out for free.
If you're the sort of person to rate progressive values above humour, then I think this film is most likely not going to be for you. Not that anything Barry Humphries does is political.
But so do you keep silent on politics? Because, I mean, it's said that you're actually politically conservative. Now, I haven't seen any particular evidence of that until now.
Why should you?
The joy of this film, and what really stands the test of time, are the unique turns of phrase.
Stone the crows, it's over a week's work where I come from.
Yes, sir.
Those Daisy bastards down at Oz's house wouldn't know a tram was up until the bell rang. Hang on, I'll be down faster than a horse draws on Saturday night.
Hey, look, Les, why don't you and me leave Auntie Edna talking to the old fella here and whip down to the local rubbery for a few swift coldies?
Come off it, what's on the go? I mean, can't a bloke point Percy at the pommy porcelain without some bastard coming the raw prawn?
2 years after the first film's release came a sequel, Barry McKenzie Holds His Own, written by Humphries and Beresford again and directed by Beresford. The plot is something to do with Edna being confused with the Queen of England. I don't know why, but in England this is considerably harder to source, so I haven't seen it. So maybe it'll be a topic for a future video. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the like button and leaving a comment. If you didn't like it, why not stick your right eye in hot cocky shit and stick your head up a dead bear's bum? And you can use this website to send me a one-time donation if you're so inclined. Thanks. I'm Scott Kingsnorth and I'm making a movie.